Hello class and welcome to the final lesson for science. Please write on the top of the page, science, 7th grade, 10.8 for lesson 8, unit 10. And today we'll be talking about managing and restoring the Earth's resources. In last lesson's video we talked about water and pollution. So now we're going to get into how we could keep the resources that we have very diligently and use them in a way that we won't have a pandemic or any type of shortage. Don't forget to write down the yellow highlighted, as these will be the answer to the questions. Let's get into it with the vocabulary words: natural resources, non-renewable resources, and renewable resources. The Earth's most influential species is the humans. The human race has the highest level of intelligence, ability, and need of any species on the Earth. Because of this, mankind has also great responsibilities for managing the resources on the Earth. Remember, none of the living or non-living things on the Earth stand alone. All resources and organisms are connected to one another in some ways. If humans completely ignore the need for balance in the biosphere, soon they too will be affected and will suffer. As delicate as the system as the ecosystem may seem at times, it is really very hard and can bounce back from disasters caused by weather, pollution, or human activity. The thing to keep in mind is how much easier it would be to have ready access to clean water, abundant resources, and rich soil if humans did all they could to maintain a healthy balance and properly functioning Earth. Of course, no one can prevent natural disasters, but much of the activities that humans take part can be controlled in better ways so as not to further damage the Earth. Even after a natural disaster, humans can help restore any area much more quickly than could be restored on its own. Moving on, we're still talking about how we could do our part, including changes, clean air, balance of populations, and things of that nature. For natural resources, we think of things that we use every day. Clothes you wear, the food you eat, the car your family drives, and the supply you need for schools. These materials are primarily made from natural resources, which are environmental resources that are useful or necessary for sustaining life on Earth. Two types of natural resources are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are the ones that environment replenish naturally, which is sunlight, water, air, and plants. These are all examples of renewable resources. Non-renewable resources, on the other hand, are only limited because they are used up more quickly than can be replenished. These are things such as metals, minerals, and fossil fuels. Moving on, we are going back from restoring Earth. In about 1 AD, and we take a look at the Earth. The land was rich, unexplored, undeveloped treasure field. California still had caverns full of gold, and Alaska had oil flowing in abundance underground. And their pretty much lifeland was filled with forests and trees. And then the human population was about 250 million back then, and people didn't have many conveniences for work or pleasure. Air conditioning, cars, planes, trains, or even tractors that wouldn't be invented for almost 2,000 years. The empires centered around Italy, Iraq, and Egypt, and the American side of the Earth had barely been discovered at this time. So much of the pollution and all of that came later on when populations continued to grow and explore the world. And now, in the 21st century, the Earth is very different. Human population has reached 7 billion, with many of those people using far more natural resources than hundreds of their ancestors could ever have. Forests are disappearing rapidly, and so is eroding quickly to worthless dust. So 7,000 plants and animal species have been killed off in the last 2,000 years, with more endangered list every year. Of course, it's difficult to say, well, we should go back to how it was, because obviously technology and advances in the ecosystem have changed. for good and bad reasons, but at the same time, we still need to do our parts as humans and as a population to conserve the land, conserve the water environment that we do have, so that way it won't be lackluster and destroyed. Reasons for change in the earth over the year, well, the population growth was slow back then. People were having plenty of babies, but the rate of growth was steady. Medicine and different types of worldly treatment were not available at that time, shortening the lifespan of many generations. With that change, we see that in 2000 year, the human population has grown from 0.25 billion to 7 billion. This is the growth that has occurred in the past 400 years, and suggested by 2100 that there would be 10 billion people on Earth. That's a lot of people in Earth, and humans are the most influential organism on Earth. Their needs and uses of Earth's resources are much greater than any plant, animal, or any living thing. The increase of human population still doesn't explain why there's much of the Earth that's at risk of damage. This problem is mostly caused by modern inventions and increase of use in chemicals and fossil fuels in the last 100 years. And the Industrial Revolution began in the 1800s. And ever since then, humans have begun inventing new machines every year. And this isn't a bad thing, like I said, but many of the inventions were not designed to keep the Earth clean, actually. And pollution has become an even bigger problem, and especially as more factories were built and little care were taken to keep air, soil, and water pure. Restoring techniques. Most people living in this time in history are concerned about taking care of the Earth and its natural systems in it. Ecology is one of the parts of the movement to restore cleanliness, biodiversity, and other things that balance the ecosystem. These are taken into effect to restore, such as recycling as many products as possible, replanting trees at least as often as they're harvested, breeding endangered species in protected areas with goals of releasing them into the wild, implementing restrictions to use the chemicals and hazardous material. These principles are used to restoring the Earth as modernization and balance, and the Earth contains abundance of resources for humans to use, but humans must not become greedy and wasteful by carelessly using more than what they need. The key to restoring the Earth is to maintain a healthy balance, practice conservation, and take steps to learn more about every ecosystem and how it is allowed to continue to thrive. Alright guys, that is it for this last lesson. Thank you for listening, and please implement these tools in your everyday life, especially outside the classroom. Thank you.